Something that came up in our prep call, if I may say, was a hint of frustration that whenever a new emerging tech comes out, whether it's crypto, whether it's AI, it feels like we're reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch on identity. So why is that, and how are you putting these people back in their place?
I think in practical terms, it makes more sense to store attestation or logs of whether something happened or not on blockchain rather than the actual KYC.
And that's the approaches that they're taking now.
Yes. So because in some cases for regulation, you need to prove that you actually check the ID of someone. So you can have that attestation, store it on blockchain, make it publicly accessible anytime, but not the actual ID. Yeah. But there's actually another aspect as well, which is kind of like forcing the industry to reinvent the wheel in a justified way, which is the whole agentic AI. So before that, it was very easy to make assumptions between who is a bot and who is a human, because humans had very different behavior compared to bots. So therefore you had systems like CAPTCHA and other things that you could safely more or less assume that only a human could answer and proceed certain checks. But now with agents becoming more and more human-like, and the fact that an agent can be replicated to a million agents concurrently running, it creates new challenges for identity that we need to see as a community. So, especially, that was also one of our core principles why we started having fundamental identity KYC verification on the Pi blockchain, because each individual, for example, can have their own primary identity and can run multiple agents if they want. But if the agents are carrying their identity and they are essentially attributing to the original user the behavior, then that's some realistic, good case scenario. The bad case is when the agents are pretending to be humans themselves. But that's why the society needs to add some kinds of checks and balances for this problem in the future.
How do you reliably link a real human to a digital identity or a cryptographic key without exposing massive security or privacy issues? So, let's go through each of you, because I think you're all working on it in very, very different ways. Daniela, the Linux Foundation has been working on identity and trust infra for years and years and years. Maybe you want to walk us through the kernel maintainer example, and specifically why it matters even beyond open source.
Sure.
Andrew, you're on biometrics, as you mentioned. I'm keen to know how you see, how do you see liveness detection evolving when we're sort of seeing this proliferation of AI-generated identities online?
So also with Pi networks, of course, you've got the attestation, which is a signal of proof of documentary evidence of identity as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So in the end of the day, all these cryptographic techniques and all these protections are absolutely necessary on the back end. And what we need to do on the front end, on the system designer's perspective, is we need to create the user experience and the user interface such that people can actually use those systems. Because in the end of the day, if you have a very sophisticated, foolproof system, but people can't use it, or they lose their keys and they completely get locked out, there's no way to recover, then it becomes not as useful as we wanted it to be. People end up not using it, and people end up falling back into very primitive
What's
forms.
Your password?
What is the last four of your social security number? Types of verifications. So we're big on user experience.
A bit of a disconnect between theory and real-world applications. Yeah. We're going to run out of time, but let's do a quick rapid-fire round. If we are lucky enough to find ourselves back here on this stage all together in 2 years, what progress do you hope the industry has made in terms of proving we're human without doxing ourselves?
Yeah. Distinguish between Sybil attacks and people being actually able to use agents to empower themselves. So you want your agent to be able to access all these resources online and report to those resources who they represent, so that they can do your work, while at the same time those different services are not bombarded by fake pretending to be human beings.
I really wish it didn't have to be that way, but if we look at history, that is usually how things start to change. Something awful has to happen first. So, I mean, you heard it here. Don't say you weren't warned. Thank you for an amazing panel, guys. I look forward to seeing you in 2 years.